Okay, we're going to do a little update here on the American Rock Festival documentary that I'm making. I'm going to wait for a few people to jump in here. I'm hoping everyone can hear me. I haven't done a live one yet, so hopefully everybody can hear what I'm saying, and we will get going here in just a minute. Let me wait for a few people to roll in. The main thing is I want to make sure that everybody can hear what I'm saying. I haven't done this yet with my microphone setting. All right, so we're good. Okay, so I'm going to kind of keep an eye on the comments here. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. For those who don't know, my name is Scotty Bud Melvin. I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I am a rock radio jock at WZUU Radio in Kalamazoo. I've been in radio here for 33 years. I'm the program director and afternoon guy at WZUU Radio. And I've been making this short video. I hate to call it a rock documentary, because when I think of that, I think of the old VH1 Behind the Musics and all the cool documentaries that have been done by professional people. I want to make sure everybody knows, this is my disclaimer. I'm a radio guy, right? Used to talking into a microphone, used to people not seeing me, used to just worrying about audio, and I'm making a video project. And I may have bitten off at the beginning more than I could chew, because I'm not a video editor. So I've learned to edit video and do all that stuff. But I want everyone to know that when this thing comes out, it's going to be a video probably somewhere between 35 and 45 minutes long. That's where we're at right now. And we're probably going to have a couple of minutes of one more video interview that we need to do with actually a friend of mine who was the concert reviewer, music reviewer for the Kalamazoo Gazette, the local newspaper. He was one of two who was at the show. Doug Pullen was one. Doug is no longer in Kalamazoo. And Mike Pryson is the guy we're going to talk to. He's actually a friend of mine, good friend of mine. And he was there for the entire day. So we're waiting to do the interview with him. Obviously, with this lockdown situation, I can't get over to his house and conduct the interview. So we're going to wait for that. I will bang that out whenever we can do it, and then have everything put together. But as of right now, we have everything put together in the order that it needs to be. All we need to do is take that interview, slide it in, produce everything, and then we'll be ready to go. So that's where we're at. I'm just kind of waiting for that. I have everything I want to ask him. He knows what he wants to talk about. We just can't get together. I mean, could we do it? Yeah. But we've decided to hold off for a few weeks. So thanks for dropping by. Here's what I want to do. I want to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing and what you can expect with this little video project. It's called the American Rock Festival Firsthand, because everyone that I'm going to talk to in this thing was there at the concert working, or I don't think we have too many fans in there, but we have a handful of people from bands. I contacted all the bands, all the people. Some are great at getting back to you. Obviously, not everybody's going to get back to you. So let me see if I can remember who we have. We have Bobby Blotzer from Ratt, who will be speaking. Mike Levine from Triumph will be, he's great. We have Warren DeMartini from Ratt as well. And Rudy Sarzo, who was with Quiet Riot at the time. So you'll hear from those guys during this thing. And I've been doing this now for 9 years, I realized. I was looking back, going through all my old emails, all my old photos, all my old notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. And I realized that my first thought of putting this thing together was December of 2011. And here's how it happened. It happened very innocently. I was not at the show, by the way. I was in California in '84, in the Air Force, at Castle Air Force Base, which is about 2 hours southeast of San Francisco. And I got to go to some cool concerts out there in San Francisco. I saw Raven with Exodus and Anthrax at a show in San Francisco at the Kabuki Theater, which is pretty neat. Anyway, so in '84, I missed the American Rock Festival. I'm sure I would have gone. My buddy was the rock reviewer for the paper. I probably would have went with him. But I also missed the '84 Tigers because I was in California. No internet, no cell phones. I had to watch the Tigers whenever they were on the national game of the week, or I had to figure out what was going on through the USA Today or the sporting news. So '84, I was gone, was not able to be at this show. So in 2011, I had a meeting with Amy Rance and Gordon Rance. Gordon is the owner. Amy, of course, works there. The family runs it. And they were thinking about doing a concert or a show or some sort of rock thing. And they were interested to see if my radio station would be interested in helping to promote that and put it on. And so we had a meeting in 2011. And when we were all done, I asked Gordon, the owner, I said, hey, does anybody ever ask you still about the concert that you guys had, the American Rock Festival in '84? And he kind of smiled and smirked and, oh yeah, every once in a while somebody will say something, that was a hell of a thing. And he started talking about it. And as I'm sitting there listening to him, I realized that this is the guy who saw everything that happened. He knew what happened during that show and before it and after it. Most importantly, was somewhat important anyway, the aftermath. And as I was driving, I think I went back to work, I realized myself, in 33 years of being in the radio business in Kalamazoo, I also had people ask me about it. I'm up on the music scene. I know what's going on. I know what's happened in Kalamazoo. And I realized there's a lot going on with that concert. People still remember it. People still love it. People were there. It was killer. And I thought somebody needs to tell that story of that show from that day. And I thought the best way to do that would be to interview Gordon Rance, the owner of Timber Ridge. I thought I'll sit down, slap a mic on him, put up a video camera, ask him a dozen questions, let him tell the story of the American Rock Festival. So I called him back. I said, can we do that? I think it'd be cool. Sure, let's do that. Well, as I started to do my research on the show, I started finding these other things out about what happened that day. And people shook their heads and they said, my God, this was a fiasco. And other people said, this was the greatest thing ever. And, both things can be true. And as I peeled back that onion on this show, I realized there was more of a story than, hey, how was it? Yeah, there was a lot of people, wasn't there? Yeah, it was hot, wasn't it? Yeah, the bands were great, right? There was more to it than that. And so I decided that I would go a little bit further than just the interview. And so I started asking a couple of other people about this. Oh, yeah, I got this, I got that, I got this. Then I asked a few more people. Sure, I got this, I know that, I had this. And I thought, well, maybe I should contact a couple of members of a couple of the bands, people who are active on social media. Rudy Sarzo will talk to anybody. Mike Levine loves talking. Bobby Blotzer from Ratt was relatively easy to get a hold of. And so once I found out Bobby Blotzer had the story, and maybe you don't know this, but the greatest story of the actual show that day is, in case you don't know, Tommy Lee from Motley Crue wanted to kick the shit out of Kevin DuBrow from Quiet Riot. And he was going to do it that day. That was going to be it. Not only was Tommy Lee going to beat the crap out of DuBrow, he was going to do it while Quiet Riot was on stage. That was the plan for that day. Now, quick backstory. Kevin DuBrow and Quiet Riot had a #1 album, Metal Health. It was the first metal album. I say metal because a lot of people don't think Quiet Riot was metal. It was the first metal album to become #1 ever in the United States on the charts. Hence, Kevin DuBrow, who already had a gigantic ego, started, yapping to everybody who would listen. And then he took it a step further and started bad-mouthing all the other metal bands and hair bands and saying they all suck, we're the best. And that didn't sit well with a lot of people. He also said Motley Crue sucked. Boom, there's your rivalry. So there were a couple of dust-ups that day, two or three, two for sure that we have firsthand knowledge of. And so Mike Levine talks about what he saw backstage, and Bobby Blotzer on video talks about following Tommy around and Tommy talking about how he was going to kick the crap out of Kevin DuBrow. That's my favorite story of the day. There are others. We will get to all that. So anyway, as I started peeling it back, I found these things out. Then I started doing other investigating, and I got all the newspaper articles. And before the show, you know, it's so much work. You got to build this gigantic stage with scaffolding and the electric and the sound and all this stuff. A lot of people. And then the aftermath, there was a lot of mayhem. People were sued. Timber Ribs was trying to get money that they were owed from the promoters that they said they didn't get. People from around the area, it's a rural area, farms were ruined, damaged, and some people were pissed. And so they tried to sue the ski area. They had to settle. It was a lot going on afterwards. So the concert ended. That was not the end of it. We'll go into the aftermath, as I call it. And so as I peeled that all back, I realized this wasn't just a story about 7 bands at a show that was cool. There was more to it than that. So that's what you're going to get. So I'm going to run down the segments. It's like chapters in a book. These are the segments from our little project here. We'll show a ton of photos, by the way, from fans. People sent in, some of you who are on here. I'm going to get to some of your comments in a minute. We'll show a bunch of photos. So you're going to see Instamatic photos, you know, what those look like from the 80s and 70s. We have very little video. Channel 8, WOOD TV in Grand Rapids was the only video we have. We asked Channel 3, which is the Kalamazoo TV station. 2 people told me it's in the archives, and the archives are no longer in the building. So I may go try and find those later when everybody can get out of their lockdown. But as of yet, I have not been able to find those. The only other video we know of that was there was a news channel in Toronto called City TV, and the MTV of Canada called Much Music, which was just starting in 84. 84 was a great year for music. And that's another reason why this thing is so special, because 84 was such a great year. It was a huge year for heavy metal and for most of the bands that were there. So we have pictures of the City TV, people with their video cameras on stage. They were probably there for Triumph from Toronto, from Canada. And then we have a short video that I found on YouTube, and you can go look at it too if you'd like, that Much Music interviewed the guys in Motley Crue. And it's 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes or so. We're going to throw that on there. I figured it's been on YouTube for freaking 10 years. We should be able to use it. I'm not selling this. It's going to be free. It's going to be uploaded to YouTube. That's how you're going to see it. Hopefully, you know, later on this summer, hopefully not too late. So you're not going to have to pay for this thing. It's nothing that's going to be sold or anything like that. Again, it's a small project by a radio guy doing a video project. It's not going to be behind the music, trust me. And it's not going to be like one of the other rock documentaries you've seen of Rush or Iron Maiden. By the way, side note, the guys who did the Rush and Iron Maiden, it's a company called Banger Films. They are doing a documentary on Triumph as we speak. I think mine's going to be out before theirs. They obviously have 50 people, and that's their job. So it's going to be killer, and they've done a great job on the ones they've already done. So I imagine my little thing will come out, and then theirs will come out later. Again, not comparing at all. Mine's just a little bitty video project. I want to make sure everybody knows that. So we'll explain what it is we're going to show you in the video. We'll do a recap on the 84 music scene. MTV was big. For those of you who were not around, MTV started in 81. They really didn't get to Michigan until, and I wasn't here in 84, so I don't remember when it got here, but it was around 84, 85. You know, back then we still only had like 13 freaking channels in Kalamazoo, Michigan, believe it or not. I think Cablevision was just starting, actually. So cable was just coming. But anyway, 84 was a big year. MTV held their first video awards. Metal did not win a bunch, but the videos that I remember the most are from metal. The White Snakes, the Poisons. They're not really metal, but they're in that genre. You know, the Def Leppards of the world. So 84 was big. So we'll recap that. We will introduce the bands who were there. This is where a lot of confusion comes in. A lot of people can't remember who was there. They think they know who was there. Van Halen, Scorpions, Judas Priest, Ted Nugent, Slade. No, none of those people were there. Let me look at the comments real quick. A lot of you are saying it was a great show. Exactly. And this is why I wanted to do the thing. Looking forward to it. What a great show. Got sunburned. Was it Motley, Crue, and Quiet Riot? Got in the fight backstage? Yes. Bill Miller, thank you. John Hadley, Rebecca Caudle. Kalamazoo, a ski resort. Was there a concert? Maybe in 81. Ozzy would have been there. No, it was 84. This is what we're talking about. May 27th. Timber Ridge did have one other big concert at this. It's not a ski resort, by the way. It's a ski area. There are no hotels. There are no rooms. It's a ski place. You go in, you buy your ticket, and you go ski. It's a little bit northwest of Kalamazoo, here in Michigan, for those of you who don't know. The only other concert they ever had there was Chris Christopherson, which was prior to this concert at some point. We were talking, my interview with the folks at Timber Ridge, they were thinking of doing another concert. I don't believe it was going to be of this nature because I don't believe, this is another question we get, I don't believe another concert like this will ever happen at Timber Ridge. I mean, the people there would just go in the town, Pine Grove Township, very small area. They would go nuts. I guarantee you they would frickin' sue and do all kinds of stuff. The huge biker dude dancing down the hill all day ended up tumbling down the mountain, clearing a big path for people. That's funny. So I'm going to look at some of these comments real quick here. Hang on. So anyway, back to the stories. Everyone has sent in stories. We have the Facebook page here, obviously, and you can just scroll through and read the stories. We will be featuring some of those stories in the video, just to let you know, because everyone has obviously a story. I mean, it's an all-day deal, and for some people, this was a 2-3 day deal. People camped out the night before. Some people slept in their cars. Some people slept in the yards of people that lived around the ski area. I mean, it was just. Yeah. So anyway, everyone always says they have their ticket stubs, of course. There were a few. We'll show you the ticket stubs. The show was $19.50, by the way. If this show had happened today, it would be $400. I mean, you know, one band is freaking Metallica and the Eagles are $400 just for them. I love that Ratt started playing at 9:10 in the morning. It was actually 10 a.m. on the nut. 10 a.m. they started. Everyone says Motley Crue blew Quiet Riot away. Shelley Jevert. That's true. A lot of people say Motley Crue stole the show that entire day. A lot of people also say Triumph shouldn't have been headlining. I don't think they were touring. I think they just did this one show from what I can tell with their schedule. But I'm a big Triumph fan. So, was Tommy ever available for this? No, I tried to get a hold of him probably 10 times. I can tell people who don't do their own Twitter and Facebook because they don't respond. There's some lackey, some intern, some assistant. Let me just say this. This is from Greg Magnan. We tried to contact every person in every band for that. I also tried to contact Tawny Katane, who was dating one of the dudes in Ratt, I think, at the time. Remember, she was on the cover of the album. And then I tried to contact Sharon Osbourne, which I knew I wouldn't, but I gave it a shot. So we did attempt to contact everybody, all the guys. And I thought I'd get a call back from some of the guys in Night Ranger. That was not the case. Let me read some of these. It was hot that day. A lot of people got sunburned. We have some photos of that. Somebody remembers Much Music. That was awesome. Yep, they were there, as was City TV from Toronto. But trying to find video from 1984, let alone, let me put it this way. I put out feelers to the news station and to Much Music in Toronto. You forget finding the video. You can't find an employee who's still working there You know what I mean? From 1984. It's very rare. There are a few here and there in TV, but for the most part, and even if you do get to talk to somebody, it's some 25-year-old snot-nosed kid at a TV station that doesn't know what an archive is. Don't get me started on that whole thing. Okay, so lots of stories. It's not a DVD, Billy Joe Cook. They will not be on DVD. We're going to upload it to YouTube. As much as I hate YouTube because of some of the things they're doing, that is the easiest platform for people to see it wherever they are. Patricia, let me know when you get it out. When it is released, I will put it on this Facebook page, all my social media. So follow also my YouTube page. Go to my YouTube page. I'm going to put out a little trailer here after we're done chit-chatting here. On my YouTube page, it's Scotty Bud Melvin. Bud is my radio nickname. Anyway, Scotty Bud Melvin, that's my YouTube page. Subscribe, and then when I put a new video up, you will get notified. Hit the little notification thing. And so that way you'll know. But trust me, if there's one thing I'm decent at, it's promoting myself. That's what us radio idiots do. Kenny says MTV came to Northern Indiana in early 82. Wow, I think you got it before Kalamazoo. I believe so. I was lucky to be in California and Texas in the early 80s, and they had it there already. Of course, California always got everything 4 years before Michigan for some weird reason. It is not a side address mic, Kent. This is a front mic. It's just off to the side, so it's not in front of my face. Caesar Doval says, I work security with a few friends from Deerfield, Illinois High School. Oh, yeah, I think I saw your comments. Security, I haven't even gotten through all the segments yet. Security was mostly, there were other exceptions, mostly Michigan, Michigan State, Western Michigan football players. That was like 90% of the security. I did talk to a guy who's a radio dude in Grand Rapids who hired some of the security people. I forgot his name. He worked for or owned Thor Security. Anyway, but there were some other people, yes. So Caesar, if you were one of them there. Oh, and we did talk to Jim Harbaugh, who's the Michigan football coach. He was the Michigan quarterback at the time, and he was there as a security guy. And so we have an interview with him I did a couple of years ago. All right, so here are the bands, for those of you who don't know, because a lot of people are, the memories fade, and that's why I wanted to do this, because people have totally different, oh yeah, Judas Priest was there, they were great. No, they weren't. They weren't there, and they weren't great. Well, they are, but no. Ratt, Accept, Night Ranger, Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Ozzy Osbourne, and Triumph. Those were the bands that were all played that day. Brad Gillis did not play with Ozzy that day. I see that a lot. Brad Gillis was with Ozzy after Randy Rhoads died, but Jakey Lee was the guitarist, as you will see, for Ozzy Osbourne. Brad Gillis was with Night Ranger that day. Night Ranger was kind of the odd man out on this one. They're not a metal band. Their music is very melodic and friendly and fun and, the total opposite of Accept. Jamie Bullock says he remembers Vince Neil climbing the scaffolding on the stage and singing from the top. That is one of the other top 5 memories of this show. During the song Piece of Your Action, Motley Crue, Vince, who I'm sure was hammered, frickin' started climbing the scaffolding. So we have photos, thanks to all the fans, of Vince climbing the scaffolding to almost to the top and singing that song from there. So that's another one of the big memories that everyone has. Michael Collins says he walked 5 miles through a ravine and soybean field. That's what a lot of people did. And a lot of you ruined some of these farmers' fields. Cows were upset. Horses, like show horses. Somebody, the woman that owned the horses had to sue she didn't have to. She sued the ski area. And then somebody said in one of the newspaper articles, his cows were, because of the loud noise, I forgot the word he used, but they couldn't produce milk because of the concert noise. I would have loved to seen him prove that in court. I mean, you got to get Mr. Science to figure that thing out. Did you hear any stories about people getting lost in the swamps, woods on the way to the show? Yes, people got lost. I mean, it's country out there. And then there's the ski field. There's a little party store, down the road a few miles, but it's 7.5 miles off of a main highway. for those of you who don't know. So yeah, some people abandon their cars on the highway and walk 7 miles to get to this damn show. Think about that. So yeah, some people had stories about that. Patricia says, yes, Ozzy came out last. No, Ozzy was not last. Triumph was last. Michelle went through a creek. Danny, 15 years old, got dropped off at the ramp of the expressway and hitchhiked. We have photos. Somebody sent us some photos of a bunch of the cars. People were literally jumping on top of other people's cars and going to the concert. I mean, they're phenomenal photos. Just the fact that they're from the 80s, early 80s. I love it. Traffic jam is one of the other things. We have video from that from Channel 8. They were up in Channel 8 was up in a helicopter. They had a little snippet of the concert, and they talked to fans. And we have this one guy who has a red, kind of a weird hat on. He's all scruffy, and he's talking. He is my favorite guy in this whole thing. I want to find out who he is just so I can shake his hand again, but he is something else. You'll see him eventually. Motley's limo almost ran over us as we were walking down. I like that. All right, let me run through some of these comments. Maybe we can answer some of the questions or the misinformation. We camped at a farmer's field. He charged us $10. There you go. That happened. And the show started at 10 a.m., by the way. Somebody shared pics. By the way, there was no official attendance number. So most of the reports said around 50,000, so that's kind of the number we're going with. There's no, you know what I mean? It was 1983. Nobody cared. And the promoters were long gone after the show, by the way, which you'll find out, according to the Timber Ridge owners. So they never gave a count. So we're going with 50,000. Travis Bjork, how are you, sir? Yeah, this was one of the other reasons I wanted to do this is because it was a really special time in music. Again, 5 of the bands, other than Ozzy and Triumph, who were already solidified as, already freaking legends pretty much. The other 5 were really on the way up still. Except this was their best album, probably, I think, but their most popular. But everybody else was just kind of on the way. So it just came together at the right time, and that's part of the excitement of the whole thing. All right. Have you tried Jim Harbaugh? I just mentioned we have an interview with Jim Harbaugh, who was a security guy there. He was the quarterback at Michigan at the time. Now he's the coach at Michigan. 36 years ago, by the way, next week, a week from today, or 36 years ago. Somebody fell in a swamp. Jose Raul. Jamie says they've confiscated everybody's leather spike bracelets. We have photos. We have photos of all the stuff they confiscated. Those are some of my favorite photos. We stayed at a motel the night before. Yep. I gave people a ride. Yep. Our booze we tried to sneak in, they stole. Some bonfires the night before. I still have my shirt. There were a few shirts. So it's hard to figure out which were the real shirts and which were the boots, the bootlegs, but we'll show you all the shirts. We have pictures of all of them. Oh, by the way, side note, this whole thing is one big side note. There's also a show the night after this in Des Moines by the same promoters. Just an FYI. All right, let me run down some of these real quick here. Me and myself, my buddies headed down before they broke a Vince climbed a scaffolding. Yep. Vince did a lot of swearing that day. We will feature some of that. Oh, we have some of the audio. Ratt, Motley Crue, and Triumph. The audio from this show is available on bootlegs. I am using it. It's up on YouTube. It's available everywhere else. I'm not making people pay for this. I'm going to use the audio that we have. So you'll hear some of the chit-chat between songs. I'm not going to use the original music, though. I don't want anybody taking me to court. So I have some people, my buddies in Hair Mania and Brian Holland are doing the music for this. We had some other people do that. So Lord knows how I made it back to Hastings. Hey, that wasn't that far. I got pulled backstage by security because of a wristband I had. Okay. I can't believe. Here's Gail. Hi, Gail. I used to work with Gail. Haven't seen her in years. I can't believe I found my way to the bathroom, beer, and back to my posse. By the way, my wife was at the show. I, of course, had not met her, and she was very young, but she was at the show. So I have her shirt actually in a little frame with the concert stub in our basement here. So did all this come to be because of the US Festival in '83? I don't know. I have not connected the two. A couple of the bands at the US Festival obviously played this this concert. The guys could have gotten the idea. I'm hoping to talk with the promoters at some point. I talked with them this much. One of the promoters I talked to on the phone for 5 minutes. I talked with the guy who was their right-hand man for about a half hour. I was never able to arrange actual interviews with them. We just couldn't put it together. So I'm hoping to do that in the future. There'll probably be a part 2. And I don't know. Maybe after the US Festival, they had the idea. Okay, US Festival. Yeah. By the way, I was out there during the US Festival. I could not go. I was in the Air Force and I couldn't just get any day off I wanted, but I was bummed because they had a metal day, just a day for metal, Priest. And I had to work at Jewel Osco. Jewel Osco, that's funny. Traffic jam on 94 went on for miles. Are you sure it wasn't 131? I think it was 131. Shirt reprints. That's been an idea somebody's thrown out there. I might have to get with the Timber Ridge people and think about that. Somebody left Sarnia, Canada, 6 a.m. Wow. Probably to see Triumph, I'm guessing. Jake Healy's guitar strap broke loose at one point. He dropped onto one knee to hold his guitar. He motioned to his tech to help him, and they laughed at him and said no. That's funny. It was in the middle of nowhere. Traffic jam was insane. Yep. Ozzy had a guy with a suit of armor come out and spray us with water. We have photos of the suit of armor guy. I think LFA played a recording of the whole shebang shortly after. Can't believe that would have just disappeared. Well, I can. If you've ever been to a radio station, 83, I doubt they were intent on saving anything. I did talk to Tony Gates, by the way, from WLAV Radio in Grand Rapids. He was, he said, yeah, I'll talk to you if you want. But he didn't seem that fired up, and I never got back to him. And I don't think he remembered a whole lot, to be honest with you. That's kind of the case with a lot of people. So that's where that ended. But maybe in the future. If they did play a recording, it was probably illegally. And I know their van was there, and I have a photo of that. Let me get through these comments, and I want to get to the rest of the information. This has already gone on longer than I expected it to. Sorry. But I wanted to get a bunch of information out because a lot of you have emailed me, messaged me, and said, when is this damn thing coming out? So I wanted to tell you why and what exactly is going on. Were there any other metal concerts like this elsewhere in the U.S. at that time? From Jackie, yes. They had this almost the same lineup the next day in Des Moines called the Iowa Jam. That show ran for like 30 years in a row, and most of the bands were there the next night from the promoters. And there were a few others as well. But for me, this was a special one because it's from here, here is where I'm from. And a lot of that kind of stuff doesn't happen around here. So that's one of the other reasons I wanted to do it. Jeff Watson on Night Ranger would probably talk. Well, he didn't get back to us, so he didn't want to talk. Accept is even better nowadays. You know what? I haven't heard a lot of their last couple of 2 or 3 albums, but I probably will at some point. Still have my shirt. 5 Canadian girls. Wow. Yeah, a lot of people came to see Triumph. Again, I don't think they were on a big tour at the time, but I'm not sure. But I'll have to look that up. I was 13 and warned my dad about bad language. Yeah, no kidding. Vince. Whew. And Tommy. Is there any way to buy a shirt from that concert? I think I saw somebody on eBay selling them, and I don't know how they get away with it, quite frankly, but I guess they do it until somebody complains or whatever. Was Nugent talked to about playing it? Heard he was. Nugent was somewhere else that night. I forgot where. Nugent was at the following night's show in Des Moines, which I believe was the same promoters because the show was promoted with the American Rock Festival, the Iowa show, on the same shirt. So here's where the confusion comes in. People thought Nugent was going to be there, and Slade and Nugent were on the shirt that also promoted the American Rock Festival. Nugent was somewhere else that night. I forgot where, Fort Wayne or someplace. And then I called Nugent's people, and a person who I actually talked to a number of times over the years, I think it's Linda, she kind of blew me off. Ted's played a lot of shows. He can't remember what happened. I understand, but I had to take a shot. So Ted was somewhere else. Without cell phones, I'm surprised thousands of kids are still not wandering on the countryside. I was 13, yep. Party store was my family store, Alamo Food and Beverage. Now, see, those would be good stories, Dale. Dale gave us some photos, by the way. Dale might have given us the photos of all the traffic and the people on the cars. Those are awesome, and we're using those, so thank you. Yes, Dale says right there, I took the car photos. Those are great. The one with like 20 people on that one car, oh my God, what a kick-ass photo that is. Thank you, Dale. And he gets thanked. Everybody who gave us photos will thank them in the credits at the end. We drove down from Manistee, sweet, 5 a.m. I had to paint our garage. We drove a full-size van. Jason Newstead, a Kalamazoo boy. Actually, he's from Richland. I should probably ask him if he was there. I doubt it. I was 25. My friend had a business card printed saying they were with the media stage and train. We went into his press. Oh, that's right. Larry. Oh, Larry sent us some photos as well. Larry Pyle. Thank you, Larry. We will use your stuff as well. I appreciate it. And if there's ever a part 2, we may have to chit-chat with you. Wasn't it also called the Kalamazoo Jam for some reason? It was not. The show the following night was called the Iowa Jam in Iowa at the Iowa State Fairgrounds, the Iowa Jam Festival. And that went on for 30 years, I believe, into the 90s. Patricia, I worked at White Castles in Taylor. All right, so anyway, this has already gone on too long. I apologize. Thanks for your time. I wanted to run down the segments that we're doing. We're going to do the 1984 recap on music real quick because it was a great year. We'll introduce the bands, tell you who they were, because a lot of people have trouble remembering. There were 7. We'll talk about their promoters a little bit. They sent us photos, one of the promoters, so we have a lot of those. That's cool. Hopefully we'll get to talk to him someday. He's in Arizona. Listen, if this was my full-time job, I would have flown to Arizona and interviewed the guy. This is not my full-time job. We'll talk about how the concert happened in the beginning, how it came together. The ski people, once they figured out what was going to happen, the owners, were a little bit frightened because they started hearing murmurs of these promoters and what happened and what could happen and what might happen. And in the end, what actually did happen ended up being what they thought might happen. So we'll hear from those guys, the owners. We'll show you the stubs and the shirts. There were many of each. We hear from Jim Harbaugh. We'll show you the books that this concert is featured in. The bands put in photos and stories. Some of the guys who wrote books remembered this concert. I think they all remember it because it was at the foot of the ski hills, and nobody does a show like that. That's why it was memorable to the band members. So we'll go down the list of the books that mention and show the show. We'll show you a bunch of Facebook stories we got. When I started the Facebook page, I didn't think I would get as many. We got a ton. If you want to go on this Facebook page and look, you'll see people's stories. 2 photographers, professional photographers, have given us permission to use their photos. Terry Sesvold, who was from Chicago, shot stuff in the 80s from a bunch of concerts. He let us use a bunch of photos. Wow. And Ross Marino, who has passed away, he was a young photographer from Detroit, worked for Cream magazine. Many of you who know rock know Ross Marino's name. A guy named Chad Morton is now in charge of his photos. Chad is getting us a bunch of photos. Actually, that's one other thing I'm going to have to redo. I finished all the work, except for our one interview left, but I'm going to have to redo the Ross Marino segment because we introduced the 2 photographers who are sharing their professional photos with us, and Chad was able to get more photos. And so that's very nice because for those of you who don't remember it or were not there, you'll be able to see from the photographers who were in the pit right there in front of the stage. We do a segment on the fans and show a bunch of fan photos and do a bunch of talk about some of the stories the fans have told us about the show. We talk about the traffic jam before, during, and after. We do a piece on the actual concert, what each band played, what they did, where they were in their career, and then we talk about one of the top 5 things that people talk about in this show. Some of you don't know because you weren't in the media or you weren't backstage. There was at least 1, possibly 2, maybe 3 fights between band members during this show on that day. Motley Crue, Quiet Riot did not like each other. And overall, nobody liked Kevin Dubrow because he was being a complete dick to every other band in the rock world after Quiet Riot got their #1 album. And it did not sit well. Tommy Lee wanted to beat up Kevin Dubrow. He attempted to do that day. Mike Levine from Triumph talks about seeing another dust-up backstage by the Trailers. And so that was a full day of, a couple of bands going back and forth. So we'll chit-chat about that a little bit. We'll show you some photos, some other things, and the people who saw what happened that day. And again, this thing is called Firsthand because I'm only doing interviews and information about people who were there. I don't want to hear fourth-hand stories. That's no good for anybody. We have very little video. We will show all that. We'll talk to the rock critic who was there that day. That's the only interview we have left to do. My friend Mike Bryson. He lives in another city, so we have to wait till the lockdown's over, and then we'll do that. Then I will update you on where the bands are today. Everybody kind of knows that, but that's kind of how we're going to tie a bow on the whole thing, and then we'll close it out. So those are the segments. Those are the chapters. That's what we're going to do. My biggest thing I want everybody to know is, this is my disclaimer, I am a radio guy making a video project, so be nice. Okay, I don't have 25 people working for me. I don't work for VH1 or MTV or one of the companies that make documentaries full time. That's one of the reasons it's called, or it's taken 9 years to make. The other is I go in spurts. I get lazy. I find more information. That's why it's taken so long, basically. So there, you have all the information. Let me run down the rest of these comments, and we're going to bail here and let you get back to your Sunday. I don't have much to do. It's raining out, so I can't go fishing. Chad says, I left a note, told my dad I was going to play football. Greg Weaver, 4 miles from home. We tried sneaking in the back and got chased out by a bunch of morel mushrooms. Okay. Jackie remembered Ross's name. Would you consider making a photo book with stories and tons of photos? I'd drop some money for that. No, I don't own any of the photos. I don't own any of these photos. Everyone who gave me photos is going to get credits in the credits at the end, and I certainly can't sell something with professional photographers' photos, so sorry. This is going to be what you're going to get. You can rewind and look at all the photos you want once the video's out. How's that? This was our Woodstock, says Eric. I suppose so, for the 80s. By the way, did you know Woodstock, 500,000 people up in upstate New York? Woodstock was held during a pandemic. Did you know that? They didn't shut down the economy then, did they? All right, no politics. Let me finish out these comments and then we'll roll. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Todd. I appreciate your interest. Mike, Jackie, Patricia, thank you. All right, everybody, thanks. This went way too long. I'm so sorry. But I wanted to get all the information that I had out there and let you know where we were. I'm hoping that, July, August, when the world gets back to normal, this thing will be ready to go. All right, I'm going to upload a short trailer to my YouTube page in a couple minutes. It should be up and get ready to go. So that's where we're at. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Scotty Bud Melvin. Also, if you're not a friend or follow this page, do that. American Rock Festival. And all the updates will be there and you'll be able to see them. So thank you. I appreciate it. And we will hopefully talk to you another time soon. Have a great Sunday. Thanks.